Hey friends, this is Dolynny TV. Glad to have you aboard here this afternoon, this evening, on what is another triple upload day in November, a messy month as I've told you from the start. We're starting to get back on the right track and it feels good. And the Oilers, well, they're starting to get a little messy with that roster construction like we knew ultimately if injuries came around, things would. So as the Cats, obviously welcome you into the broadcast as well. If you're new to the channel, friends, consider hitting that subscribe button here on Dolynny TV. Love to have you aboard. Tuning into the regular updates here as they become more regular as the year and stuff goes on. That said, what we know coming out of kind of last night, coming out of the game against the Senators, is there's been some updates from Bob Stauffer on the trade front. Again, reinforcing the fact that a second pairing defenseman with a little term left is the ideal, most logical addition for the Oilers ahead of this year's trade deadline. I think first few times over the past week or two I've seen this term puck moving. I think earlier on the decision was shutdown type pairing defenseman for the Oilers. This time now we're starting to see maybe the Oilers know that they can, you get somebody to alleviate the puck moving from Nurse. Maybe he becomes better off defensively in a way you go. I don't necessarily know ultimately how that's all going to play out, but you kind of get where I'm going. The Oilers feel as though they've got some options, and Bob Stauffer also kind of pivoting from what's been a trend that we generally assumed was going to be a right shot on the second pair. The player just needs to be able to be comfortable playing the right side for the Edmonton Oilers. So ultimately, does that really drastically change much, if anything at all, that we already know, already want, already are wishing for when it comes to the Edmonton Oilers defense? No, it doesn't, right? We know ultimately the Oilers are likely going to have to just pick the best player available to fill the hole rather than being picky choosy and trying to get the guy that's going to be perfect, right? The best guy is not always the perfect guy, if that makes sense. And that's what it's seeming like Bob Stauffer is starting to pivot to here a bit with that update, and obviously things in the discussion around the Oilers pivoting over the past 24, 48 hours. Now, talking about right-hand shot defensemen, Josh Brown had a good game against the Ottawa Senators, had a pretty good start to his career with the Oilers, obviously after building his game back up with the Bakersfield Condors. You weren't expecting much, you weren't asking much, and that's the nice part, is Brown is a guy that has the body on him and can throw it around and can throw some hands. It's literally all you need to expect. And in an 11-7 format, that's perfect. Now, you're probably wondering why the title says what it does, and we're kind of divulging that slowly but surely, I'll tell you that much. The Oilers are back under the cap for the time being. You see in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, unless you got the YouTube time bar up, it says last edited 450 November 20th, 2024. So as far as I understand, this move was made prior to cap numbers being finalized for today at 5 p.m. Mountain, which means to me, and again, I have a loose understanding of this. I don't have a perfect understanding. So if I'm wrong, it is what it is, and we'll correct it tomorrow or later tonight if something else happens. But what I understand is if the Oilers don't make another move until after 5 p.m. roster-wise tomorrow, we're getting to where I'm going, the Oilers essentially save 2 days of Josh Brown's cap hit that counted against the savings or the accruing that we get towards the trade deadline. So that's a bunch of jargon. Most of you don't understand, me included, but it apparently means something for the Edmonton Oilers. So I guess they have $391,000 free, so they get to save that percentage dollar-wise over today and then into tomorrow until 5 p.m., and then away you go. So technically the Oilers save up towards what would be a total final of 1.4. Now what we know is Arvidsson is mystery. Darnell Nurse maybe sometime late this week, early next week at the earliest. That's kind of the timeline that we were initially given, the 5 to 10 days. And then Zach Hyman as well, kind of, I don't fully understand, nor do I have time to try and find today's update or whatever it was. But yeah, there's a couple of guys banged up on this Oilers roster. And now you're wondering, well, Okay, the Oilers just went back into accruing cap space by sending a guy down, and they've got 3 guys down. And how does that all work? And how's that going to fit? And what do we do? You got 2 forwards down. We only had 12 to begin with, while you replace 1 with Kasperi Kapanen. So now suddenly you're back to 11. And you got 7 and Darnell Nurse, or you got 11, 6, Darnell Nurse hurt. And yeah, there's a couple of things going on here, right? Now all of a sudden you got a 22-man roster, 2 guys are hurt, and you're playing again, the math is weird at this point for the Oilers, I guess. Yeah, right? Actually, it's 11, 6, and 2, so 19. Where am I missing something? Yeah, actually that is correct if Darnell Nurse is out of the lineup. Sorry, I had this all figured out with Patrick in the car, I'm telling you that. So it's 11, 6, and 2 right now going into tomorrow's game. So back on track now that I just checked all the boxes in the brain, doing it live, right? That's the beauty of how this channel operates. Basically, there's going to be something after 5 o'clock tomorrow. The way all this is lining up. And that's where this video was going all along. I just kind of forgot how the math worked. Basically, all along is you may or may not have seen some things creep up on social media today about possibly what's happening. I'm going to tell you right now, the Oilers, if they want to ice a full lineup, which I guarantee they're going to want to do, they're going to have to figure out something after 5 p.m. tomorrow. And obviously you don't play till 7 p.m., so the wheels can kind of be in motion. Again, I'm not outright saying it, but anyone that kind of knows maybe with the details that are out there in the ether, you would understand what I'm saying. The Oilers, I think, have made 2 moves over the past 24, 48 hours in Kapanen and Brown, and they're about to make another one, if not another 2, to try and situate this. And I think when I dodge around the one that I know the Oilers are likely actioning on here, I'll sit there and talk about the other one that's very likely for the Oilers. When I say there's 1 or 2 moves, there very well will be a second move, because we're starting to creep that territory where Victor Arvidsson is missing significant time in a team that has only 12 healthy forwards at any given time. So basically the theory there is if Victor Arvidsson is guaranteed to, miss past Saturday, you retroactively place him on LTIR, because why not? We're already there. Let's do it. And then you're able to get him off the 23-man roster, move up another guy from the farm team, and now you continue, right? Like, this roster is really, for having no cap space, really having no trade assets and stuff like the Oilers don't, you're starting to really play with pieces unlike what we're used to, right? Usually the most simple answer is the most simple answer. And what I'll tell you here, the most simple answer will still be the most simple answer, because all we're going to do is add to the LTIR usage. But it just kind of, you're starting to move bing, bang, boom. And we're kind of basically getting back to what Ken Holland did with Bill Scott and the rest of the cap management team back the year we acquired Matthias Ekholm, where we had Jesse Puljujarvi on LTIR, bang, he's back, bang, going, and then you got Tyler Yamamoto. Well, no, he's not going to go. And then 20 minutes later, they place him on LTIR because he wasn't ready to go, but he only has to miss 2 more games because it's retroactive, all that. I'm not trying to be hyperactive here, but trying to explain where the Oilers have been versus how it's lining up now, and exactly kind of the theory and thought process behind what I'm sure is about to happen here. There is a lot to understand. And that is where I think the best part is nobody, absolutely nobody, truly has a clue how the cap system works at the NHL level. Because if anyone did, we wouldn't have the funky ins and outs that we tend to have come out after something that absolutely nobody understands comes out, and then it takes about 2 hours to break it down. There would be cut, paste, dry. This is what happened, away you go. So the beauty of it is now for the Oilers, like I said, the moves should be done for now. They may very well move Victor Arvidsson to LTIR here sometime tomorrow midday. if that is indeed the route they're going to go. And I understand that's a very possible route. So we could see that midday, and that doesn't affect anything necessarily other than to create the roster space that may be valued come past 5 o'clock tomorrow. So we'll see what the Oilers ultimately choose to do. But again, this Josh Brown send down is more or less about holding cap space for 2 days and accruing it. And then bang, you kind of get into that 2 hours before the game tomorrow where the Oilers, I'm sure, as well, we, what did we have? We had that trade for Ronnie Attard the other week there with the Philadelphia Flyers for Ben Gleason, and that came out like 5 minutes into the game that night. So I would not be surprised. But again, I think if the Oilers are to place Victor Arvidsson on the LTIR, you would see that move correspond with a guy suiting up in the lineup in that place not named Kasperi Kapanen. So stay tuned. We'll see what happens, but there's a lot going on here still. And just I want you to frame this in your brain right now is just because I'm saying there's possibly something tied to Victor Arvidsson going to LTIR doesn't mean there's not something else going on in the intermediate between that. I don't know, kind of, again, it's tough because you're working on kind of, right now, it just seems patchwork, kind of cap management to get through some injuries. But don't be surprised if there's a little extra wrinkle, I guess you could say, to what I'm saying here in today's edition. So stay tuned. Again, everything's fluid because, as I said, right, I don't even know what the latest update on Zach Hyman is. And I don't know if the Oilers truly know what the update on Darnell Nurse and Victor Arvidsson are. So everything that's been explained here, well, possibly valid moves, might not be valid by the time we get to noon tomorrow. So we'll stay tuned, see what happens. But I expect this is the last time you'll hear from me here on this Wing Wednesday edition of Dolynny TV. Thank you so much for tuning in. As for usual, I am up on, oh dear,